their group. And one time I know she had, they served barbecues after a game, or before a game, I should say.
During intermission.
And during intermission, and so
Yes.
she was in charge of that. And then there were sometimes when she would bring, I'd make rolls, and she'd bring fresh rolls to school, and faculty would buy them for their lunch breaks, and she made some money that way. And anyway, she really enjoyed that. She was really, and right now there isn't such a thing in high school.
Yeah,
So,
and they had at that time 70 members,
yeah.
and
Oh.
within a few years it all played out.
I was thinking of Sonia and Arla were in a swim team when they were quite young. And that was not a school thing. It was well, I suppose
Park
yeah,
board.
the park board. And oh, they went to swim meets in different towns, and they really did well. And they'd go to swim practice at 7 in the morning. And one June, I remember, was so cold they'd come home on their bicycles with wet towels around their neck, and they were just blue. And I thought to myself, you couldn't pay me to go out there and do that, but I didn't say that. Well, all of them went, well, at least the girls went to science first, so they were home, but I guess the one that we noticed the most was the last one, of course, and we took him to Princeton and came back alone. And that was kind of, it put a lump in our throat because, it was quite far away, and we knew that it would be a while before he'd come home, but
It was about 5 in the afternoon when we said our goodbye in the parking lot near the dormitory that Joel was going to be in at Princeton. His dorm was about 200 years old, and he was on the 4th floor. The bathroom is in the basement.
And it was not a nice room. I felt sorry for him, really, but
Yeah,
I didn't want to show that. But
But then he ended up as a senior in the most beautiful, elaborate apartment.
oh yeah,
So that
What?
you work your way up to these good things.
yeah,
But I do remember standing there with a lump in my throat, and we drove down the road, starting back to head up to the Pennsylvania Turnpike to come back, and I think we drove along maybe an hour and a half without saying a word to us.
we were pretty quiet, I think.
We were awfully quiet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we knew that
yeah,
the 4 walls would be there, and none of the life that we experienced all these years is going to be there for us. One of the enjoyable things, this goes back to travel and stuff, that I got out of my job was to be an evaluator of 2-year colleges over about 18 states in the central part of the United States. And I made dozens of calls on committees to evaluate other 2-year colleges, and had to write a report. I was in Chicago every couple of months for several years there to present the information that we'd find on these colleges. And it was a real learning thing for me. Those trips always had to be alone, of course, but I did enjoy all the Kiwanis trips and other trips. For instance, when we went to Hawaii, that was a college trip, so I got the free ticket, but we had to buy one for Leona. She went along, and it was in February, and it was beautiful out there.
beautiful, beautiful time.
And we very much enjoyed it. So, one of the things when I retired, 2 things that kind of touched me. One is that they made me Dean Emeritus, and the other is they named a building on the campus after me. So if you go up around, you'll see Hektner Hall there, which is something that will stand long after I'm gone, I'm sure. And I feel very humble and honored to have had these 2 things happen in 1984 when I retired.
Well, all these years, and probably about 50 years, we have gone to the Concordia Christmas concert, which has been a real, what should I say, a special Christmas event, because it's kind of, it's the beginning of Christmas. It's usually the first part of December, and it puts us in the Christmas spirit. And then we belong to the Twin Town series, which has some very good concerts every year. They usually have about 4 concerts, which we belong to. Right now we have a concert coming up next Sunday, which is a pianist that will be here. And those have always been very enjoyable. Well, in Florida, they have a beautiful theater there that has some very good events. And we've attended some of those, and one of them was the Smothers Brothers. And here just, I think the last time we were in Florida was Ed McMahon was there for one session, and we enjoyed going to that because it was very beautiful theater. And some of the events that I particularly remember, of course, one is Kennedy's assassination, because I was sitting around waiting for Kara to be born, and so naturally I watched that quite closely. And then that space shuttle too, the Challenger, we were in Arizona at that time and saw it on TV, and so I won't forget that. So yeah, those are some memorable events that happened that we saw. Well, there have been a lot of changes since I grew up. TV, of course, is one, and the computer is another. And I think the thing that perhaps is probably one of the better inventions is electricity, because we grew up without electricity, and in fact we didn't have running water when I was growing up either. And so those are some things that, you know, I'm sure that children now can't imagine living without, you know. And the cell phone, of course, we didn't have, actually. We had a phone on the farm, but it was one of these where you could listen in on your neighbors, you know. And you had, like ours was probably a short ring and a long ring and a short ring or something. We went by that. And I don't know, the type of thing you didn't use much, like when I went to college and never thought of calling home, because that's just, if you did call home, or if they called you, it meant somebody died or something, and so it wasn't like it is now. So it wasn't used like we think of a phone now. So, no, let's see now. I was still at home when we had electricity, but yeah, that was a real, what should I say, invention, because we could have a refrigerator, you know, and if you got hot in summer, you could have a fan going or something, and just quite an invention. Well, I'm sure raising a family now, I feel, is more difficult than it was when we raised our family. I think there's much more peer pressure, and there's much more competition, like in school, and you know, they really have to work at it to get ahead, and they feel they are pushed, I think, more than they were at that time. And then, of course, the drug problem. At least I wasn't aware there was a drug problem when I went to school, and or an alcoholic problem either, which now we know is quite prevalent. So. Yes, Bethel is our church home, and we go there regularly. And I've been active in the ladies of the church. In fact, I was president when they used to call it the Ladies' Aid, which they don't anymore. And we have quilting going on every month, and I'm going to quilting quite often. And one story I'll have to tell you was when I was organist. I was playing for a funeral. An older fellow, a real nice old fellow, passed away. I played for this funeral, and our oldest girl was just maybe 3 years old, and Vernon's mother or parents lived across the street from the church. So his mother offered to take her when I was playing for this funeral. And so I was playing the prelude for this funeral, and here comes Sonia running up the stairs. And at that time, well, they still do, I guess, you could look down the organist in the balcony, and you could look down the balcony and see that open coffin, and you saw this person. And so she looked down there and she said, "Is he dead?" And I, of course, shook my head. And so she said, "Who shot him?" And I just about lost it. Because, and I thought, oh. And so anyway, about that time, his mother caught on that she was gone, and so came running in to get her. So she came up the stairs and got her just in time, I think. But anyway, it's one of those things that you really don't know, how to handle that. But anyway, at that point, I got by when she came to get her. But as county auditor, their election is always taken care of in that office, and so that was my concern at that time during election time. And we'd have a school for the election workers before every election, which I had to handle that. And then also to distribute the ballots, and I'll get that organized, which is quite a lot of work, but I really enjoyed that type of thing, that election process of getting workers and seeing that they had their ballots and all that, and election night working with it, and that was before computers, so it was a lot more work than it is now. I shouldn't say maybe not more work, but anyway, different work. It was quite, I think, so much more done by hand than they do nowadays. Well, my favorite season, I think I would say, is summer, because you get the green leaves and you get the sunshine, and I like to garden, not vegetable garden, but flower gardens. And so I've always liked the summer because of that. I've had roses that I have had pretty good luck with, and so I've enjoyed having flowers. And that's one reason why I like Florida better than Arizona, is because it's green. In Arizona you don't have that green, nice foliage, And I do think that our winters are so long because the spring is so drab until you get leaves on the trees. So I really enjoy that, the part where it's, the green and the flowers. And Florida, another thing, had a lot of beautiful flowers. Everywhere you went, it seemed like before a development of some kind, they always had an entrance with lots of flowers, and it was just really, I really enjoyed that. I have acquired a few antiques or keepsakes, and one of them is that chair that you're sitting in. And the picture above the piano, the frame came from the attic of my grandparents on my dad's side. One time, that was after my grandparents were gone and my uncle was living there. And so my sister and I went up in the attic. He said, you know, we could look around up in the attic there. So we were looking around up in the attic, and I saw this picture frame, and it was all dusty. It looked terrible. And so I kind of brushed it off, and I said to my uncle, you know, what are you going to do with this picture frame? And well, he just shrugged his shoulder, and he said, if you want it, you can take it. So I took it, and I just washed it up, and I've never done anything to it except clean it up. And I'm really pleased that I had the courage to ask for it, because I really like it very much. And I do have my mother's gold watch that has her initial on it, and still it just looks like brand new, and I have used it sometimes. Oh, and I do have a bone china cup collection. I probably have about maybe 25 cups and saucers of my own. And somehow by accident, I guess, I've collected vases. I think I've gotten quite a few for gifts and so on, so I have a collection of vases which I have on top of my cupboard. And that's about the extent of my collections, I guess. Well, when I was working in the courthouse, my mother got sick. Well, first of all, we were going together at that time, and I said maybe he should come out to the farm to meet my family. So we went out to the farm this particular evening and to meet the family, and he met my dad and my brothers and my sister, but my mother was sick. She was in bed, and so he did not meet her at that time. And after that, it wasn't too long after that, she ended up in the hospital. And this was in early November, or late October, I guess. And she passed away in January, about January 6th or something like that. And but he did visit with her with me a couple times, so he got to meet her in the hospital. And she did tell him that, oh, I've seen that name Hektner in the Morton News, she said. So I'm acquainted with that name, she said. So she did get to meet him, but that's, so I was happy for that, at least. For relaxing, I like to play the piano or read. In fact, we get a lot of magazines, so I like to keep up with news in the magazines. And I do some reading. I read a couple books this winter. And piano, I have quite a few favorites, but I can't play them as well as I used to. But one of the first ones that my piano teacher asked me to really work on was a piece called Scarf Dance. And so that's the one I'm going to be playing today now. So. when the girls were growing up, I used to sew quite a bit for them, and I used to make dresses for them. In fact, they were in a, this is the two older girls, that is, were in a kitty parade, and I made dresses that had ABC on them, and they decorated their little buggies with the same type of material. And we naturally took pictures of that, and they got first prize in that one parade, you know. So that was